Studying film music from a compositional standpoint is a great way for new and upcoming composers to learn what modern techniques are being used. Similar to how all composers learned and grew from those before them, we can do the same today. While the leitmotif is attributed to Wagner and maybe a few examples are given, it is not explored further in the educational setting and not through film music. In film, there are different factors that can crop up that would be more beneficial to study. Star Wars is seemingly the easiest example. This Force theme here was originally Ben Kenobi's theme.
This music right here, this is not the Force theme. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi's theme.
Don't be afraid. Oh, don't worry, you'll be alright.
But Ewan McGregor here dies in the first film, so when the unexpected sequel comes around, i.e. The Empire Strikes Back, whenever something Force-related happens, because the audience's only connection to the Force was through Mr. Hello There, there's now this recontextualized association with this music and the Force, instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hear me. Leia.
This is no longer Obi-Wan's theme, this is now the Force theme.
Luke's theme is also in this category, later becoming the theme to the series.
And that same thing happened to Luke's theme. Originally, it was both the main theme for Star Wars and Luke's theme because he was the hero of this story. And now we just all know it as the main theme for Star Wars, and Luke has somewhat lost his musical identity, just because the music kept playing at the start and end of 6 films where he didn't show up as the main character.
We can explore this further by looking at the use of the original trilogy motifs in the sequel trilogy, and see how much the studio decided to influence the music over the composer, creating a problem.
Let's look at right here when Luke lifts up the X-Wing. What is this? Why are we doing this? This is Yoda's theme. Why are we playing Yoda's theme here? Why are we playing Yoda's theme right here? It just doesn't make any sense. But you see, it's not just Yoda's theme.
Yoda lifts it in The Empire Strikes Back. Romero Belgart, the music editor, he said, it should be exactly the music that we had for Yoda. And actually, JJ questioned it. He said, should we be doing that right? And everybody said, yes, it has to be. It's, the fans will all know.
So this could serve two purposes: having film soundtracks that are well scored with great motivic writing, and those that don't, and explore why. Much more educational than sticking to Wagner. A type of analysis that was new to me until recently is the Neo-Riemannian theory, used in Frank Lehman's book, Hollywood Harmony. The idea behind this type of analysis is to look at chordal transformation and how they work. I highly recommend Frank's book as I'm still working my way through it and don't want to misrepresent it. But a simpler way to see how these transformations work is to look at these channels that talk about how to fake looking like a film composer. Just taking 2 chords going back and forth, you can evoke a certain feeling, something that could be useful to learn, right? While many of the composers we study in school stick to certain rule sets, that is pretty much abandoned, and rather going with a strict rule set of writing, composers go with what's in their head, and even some do not even have formal training in composition, like Danny Elfman. He scored Pee-wee's Big Adventure having only learned to transcribe music a few years prior. That's it. To be fair, composers like Henry Jackman have an insane amount of training, including how to write like Palestrina given only a few bars to start. Most composers will stick to a standard orchestral setup, and so we don't see much variety. Of course, there's the oddball 7 horns in Mahler 1, the lack of instruments in Shostakovich Concerti, etc. But for film soundtracks, they use very specific instrumentation for different scenes, and it's worth studying why that works. Why the flute here, or just the strings there? You see more of that in film than you do in stage compositions like symphonies. I'm not saying that they don't exist, like the horn being characterized as Till in Till Eulenspiegel, or the hero in Ein Heldenleben. While motivic writing is a classic technique from Wagner that is found in film scores, other types of writing are present in modern film music as well. While studying about the 12-tone matrix in school, it seemed to be a fad that lasted only a short while. but since it falls into a classical style and technique, we are taught it. But who has used a 12-tone matrix recently and to great effect? The score to The Matrix. Film music is compared to late Romantic composers and are downplayed because of that. But it seems like The Matrix just flew under the radar for music educators as a fantastic modern example of its use. I was very lost when it came to modes in school. I couldn't remember anything about them, like their names, how they worked, anything. Why? Because they never taught how they were used or showed examples. Funny enough, Classic FM, boasting to be the largest classical music radio station in the world, can't even stick to classical examples when showing examples of modes. While there are of course classic examples of modes, what's the problem with using modern examples? Film music of course comes to the rescue here, and since I've mentioned John Williams a lot already, I'll avoid his music in giving examples of each scale or mode. The Dorian mode can be found in The Lord of the Rings, the initial statement of the Rohan theme by Howard Shore. The Phrygian mode is all over The Nightmare Before Christmas. Here's an example in Sally's song, music by Danny Elfman.
I sense there's something in the wind.
Lydian is all over soundtracks, but here's an example from The Spitfire Grill, music by James Horner. An example of the Mixolydian scale can be found in Jerry Goldsmith's theme to Star Trek: The Motion Picture. While on Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the cloud has the hexatonic scale used. For a good example of the octatonic scale, The Sixth Sense by James Newton Howard uses it. And of course, we got the 12-tone matrix used by Don Davis in The Matrix. There are plenty more examples to uncover. Given that sometimes composers are given only a few weeks to score a film, it's insane at how well they are able to keep everything together and use these techniques that we are barely even taught. So much can be learned from picking apart these scores, so I truthfully find it hard to imagine that there wouldn't be some form of benefit coming from studying this modern music. Even if you want to go against the idea of having many composers writing the same movie, you could analyze the score and show why. An idea I might do, as this does intrigue me. It will come as no surprise that I support the addition of studying more modern music in school. We learn very much in a traditional style and haven't really upgraded. And with this conclusion to my 3-part series, I want to hear from you. What arguments have I not addressed or perhaps missed? Do you agree or have more supporting arguments? Let me know down in the comments, and I will of course see you next time.